All right, welcome to another episode of the SNG Weekly Wrap-Up. It's August 16th? August 16th, Sunday, August 16th. We've got everyone here this week. We're finally all back together. I'm here at the Smash Mouth concert. It was so nice of them to put it on in reverse behind me. Dan, you are repping a Johnny T hat to show off.
Signed.
Yeah, a signed Johnny T hat to remind everyone that he's out of the playoffs. And Joe, you're at my house, weirdly. So
I am, and I thought I was going to get better service by the team here, by the customer service team, but unfortunately, I don't have headphones. So.
Concierge.
Yeah, no worries. Joe will just be muting and unmuting himself constantly throughout the entire show. So we'll probably have to just remind him to unmute at some point.
No, I do this for work. I'm going to be very good with this. I'm guaranteeing 0 errors on my end on the muting.
You're guaranteeing off the bat. You're going to guarantee that.
Over under 0.5.
And he's saying under. I'm saying over. I'm going to say there's at least 2 errors on your end. I'm going to say there's going to be a time where you're talking and we're not going to be hearing anything. That's my guarantee. All right, we are going to try to keep it compact this week. We're going to talk UFC, NHL, and NBA. Let's jump right into it. Start with UFC 252. Did either of you guys watch UFC 252 last night?
I did not.
I bet on it, and I was so tired that I did not watch.
Nice. I did watch. I found a very legal stream for it. I definitely paid the $65 to get it. But it was great. UFC or the third fight between Miocic and Cormier. Real quick. Joe, I know you're a UFC fan, as I am. Did you think that Cormier's career ending on an eye poke was kind of poetic justice?
Well, as a UFC fan, I never believe that anyone's career is ending when they say it is.
True. He is 41.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the money's going to be there. I think that they're in a unique position now where they're getting a lot of new fans. And I think, first of all, I think Sean O'Malley losing was really brutal for the UFC.
Yeah.
I think I've said that he's supposed to be kind of next. I lost some money on him. But poetic justice in UFC, I don't think exists. I think it's an unjust sport. I think it's an unjust everything. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no on that.
I liked it. I liked that he got the eye poke. Dan, if you're unfamiliar with Cormier, he's kind of notorious for poking opponents' eyes. He did it to Miocic earlier in the fight, and then basically blamed his loss on getting poked in the eye. It was a pretty brutal one. His eye was rippling, and he couldn't see out of it for the rest of the fight. It was pretty disgusting, to be honest. But that I liked it. I don't know. I think having a guy whose career was built on eye poking go out in a loss because of an eye poke. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Sorry, Dan. I know you don't have too many UFC thoughts, so we'll run through this quick and then jump into more your forte of a sport. But Joe, is two things: is Ngannou next for Miocic, and will we ever get Miocic versus John Jones Jr. Super fight?
James, I lost you there. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you just forgot to mute. I was hoping. No. I was really hoping. Yeah, we will count that. We'll count that as one. No, I just asked, is Ngannou next for Miocic? And will Miocic versus Jones Jr. ever happen in a super fight? He lost me again. I'll answer.
Well, I think that's.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, it seems to be, the way that they're going here. I actually don't – was this fight on Fight Island or not? That's going to make a difference in my answer.
It was in Vegas.
I was going to say the Fight Island fights I feel like should have no bearing on, the advancement of title matches or anything like that. So in that case, then yes. I really wish I saw this. I was pretty mad. I was away all week, and I got home. I didn't sleep all week because I was on the couch, basically. And I put all these bets in. I bet on O'Malley. I bet on Cormier. And I bet on a couple of the early cards, method of knockout, method of everything. I wake up with $0. So I was pretty upset about all that. I didn't take a look at anything. I know that O'Malley got hurt. It's really my biggest thoughts from this, unfortunately. This was a tank job.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is that I don't understand why the UFC in Vegas is doing this 25-foot octagon as opposed to their typical 30-foot. It doesn't really make sense. It's the only thing in the room. I don't understand why they couldn't build an octagon big enough to fit the requirements. But it was kind of cool to see two heavyweights battling it out in the smaller octagon. As for O'Malley, who Joe clearly lost a lot of money on, this is his second time breaking a foot in a fight. I think, like you said, Joe, I think it's really bad for the UFC. I think him winning would have been good for the UFC. Plus, it's kind of like the McGregor thing, where once you start losing, it's hard to be as brazen. You can't really strut around and show off when you're losing fights. So hopefully his foot recovers, and hopefully we get more O'Malley in the future. Let's jump into the NHL. Dan, I'll hand it off to you. We're in the first round of the NHL. We're 2 games in. The qualifiers ended last week. We talked about what are some of the biggest storylines you've been looking at so far?
So as ever, it's been great to have hockey on. I love the TV schedule for starters, just kind of having one game rolling into another. That's been great. So point number 1 here, obviously conflicted with this TV schedule and the 2-bubble system. They didn't really account for 5 OT games, which is what we had in game 1 between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, I think I stayed with this one until the end of second overtime.
Yeah.
Which by then it was around about 2 a.m. In the UK. I know, James, you watched most of this. Did you see this one out?
I did. I started it in the third period. I watched to the end of the game. So like I was telling you, I got basically 2 full games worth, which was cool.
I did the same thing, which was nice. Third into the final overtime.
And it was great, right, Joe? I do think there's an element that's missing without the fans, which is a shame. But for me, I just love overtime hockey, and I wanted it to go 8 overtimes. It sounds like maybe you have a different reaction to it, Joe. But I loved it.
Yeah, it was a very novelty thing. I don't think it was a great game because I don't think they played particularly well in overtime. It was very weird that there was really no power plays. I don't think at all. Like for those 4 or 5 overtimes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, there wasn't a ton of chances. I mean, Kucherov missed really what should have been a goal, I think, twice. But it was kind of a anticlimactic winner. What a snipe that was, though.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hate the Lightning. I really do.
Yeah.
I really hate the Lightning. And I was really looking forward to Columbus not only winning that game, but then I thought if they won, they were going to sweep. But my Islanders playing right now, which is another big game. And I've been watching more hockey than basketball.
Really? That is surprising to me. I've watched 1 quarter of an NBA game, and we'll talk about the NBA later, but to me it was borderline unwatchable. So I've been watching a lot of hockey as well, but we'll get into our NBA thoughts. Dan, I know you're big on the NHL, and you love watching the NHL. Have you noticed a difference? Because you probably on average watch more, well, maybe not Joe anymore, but definitely watch more than me. Have you noticed the difference, everyone playing on the same ice and playing without fans?
I wouldn't say so. I think, like, you expect playoff hockey to have a higher intensity. I think I'm kind of coming at it from an angle where I traditionally don't get to watch that much live hockey anyway. So I'm probably not the best person to say whether it's different or not.
Yeah.
I think it probably does feel more similar to the kind of regular season games in terms of the intensity, but obviously having the crowd noise played in and stuff like that, and the arenas. I think they've done quite a good job in the arena with the kind of presentation of everything.
Yeah, the screens look real cool.
The screens and everything. So yeah, I don't know. There's not as much kind of like after whistle stuff, and I don't know. There's probably does seem to be something missing there, but I think as it goes on, we'll see the intensity rack up. I got a quick there's a tweet about Victor Hedman's numbers through 3 games of the Blue Jackets series so far. He's had 106 minutes time on ice. He's had a game-winning goal. He's had 44 shot attempts, and 20 of those were on goal, which is just absolutely
through 3
insane.
games,
through 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had those at the end of probably like the second round, that would be pretty impressive. But yeah, I think that game was good. I kind of agree with Joe. There's probably slightly a novelty there, and just kind of remarkable as well from a conditioning point of view. That they can play basically 2.5 games and still kind of be on the ice 2 days later, which is just really crazy.
One of the biggest things for me too was just the mental aspect of it for the goalies. And I mean, it wasn't a cheap goal at the end. I mean, no one made a mistake. Neither of the goalies made a mistake. And that to me, I just think it would be so mentally draining trying to do that. So hats off to them. Joe mentioned his Islanders. I'm not sure the score right now, but can the Caps rally from 2 down, Dan? Do they have a chance?
So, yeah, you mentioned they're playing right now. As the game stands, they're just coming up to the end of the second period, and it's 1-1. I think if the Caps can grab a win in this, then I do think the Islanders are going to struggle. Caps have been really slow out of the blocks this year. Not a great kind of qualifying round, or whatever we call it, the round robin seeding round. And then they've kind of come up against quite a hot Islanders team in those first 2 games. But yeah, I still think they've got a good chance if they can get a win today. And probably by the time this show goes out, we'll know that for sure. What the state of play is there. But I think Ovi's got 2 goals in those first 2 games, and he has picked up an assist for Kuznetsov in this game as well so far. So I don't know. I hope, Joe, for your sake, that the Islanders make it through. And then James, I know you've got a bit of a soft spot for the Caps. So
I do. I do have I don't know what it is. I think it's from all the years of wanting them to finally get a cup and wanting Ovi to finally get a cup that I've just watched them lose in the second round year after year. That it's made me a little soft for the Caps. So I hope. I don't know. I hope they can pull it through. I don't like the Islanders. I think there's not a more boring team to watch in the league than the Islanders right now. But that's probably why Joe loves them. So, oh, he did it. He did it. There's mistake number 1.
I pressed the space bar. I had to click.
Yeah.
Right away.
Sure.
That is exactly why I like watching Islanders, because they are boring. Like I said before, they remind me of the early Devils. With my guy Barzell. And I bet on Clutterbuck to score every game besides whenever they played Thursday or Friday, and he did score. And I lost my mind. I bet on Anders Lee, which was nice. But, you know, I have a big affection for the Islanders, and I think it's filling my void. They're going to play at a horse racing arena in Belmont Park. It's going to be amazing. So I will be at multiple Islanders games.
So, Joe, let me make a quick recommendation. Switch your camera from the webcam to the computer cam. I think it'll be better. You can leave your mic as the webcam. Dan, why don't you hit on the last bullet point while we try to get Joe from freezing?
I will. Quick side note on what Joe just said. I think Anders Lee has one of the strongest jaw lines in the league. Go and check that out. So last point here, has Tuukka Rask played his last game for the Bruins 2 hours before the puck drop yesterday in game 3 of a series that the Bruins are already 2 down to the Hurricanes. They released a statement from Tuukka Rask, which was, I want to be with my teammates competing, but at this moment, there are things more important than hockey in my life, and that is being with my family. I want to thank the Bruins and my teammates for their support and wish them success. And following that, he has opted to leave the NHL bubble and leave his team in a bit of a difficult position. They do have Halak really coming in. Yeah, strange. James, you mentioned that he had made some comments earlier in the week at a press conference.
Yeah, so he had said, to be honest with you, it doesn't really feel like playoff hockey out there. There are no fans, so it's kind of like playing an exhibition game. So when he when he said that, there's kind of a thought that, okay, maybe he's setting himself up to leave or something. But it's really weird timing. I can't imagine that these guys will be too happy with their goaltender leaving after 2 games into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even if he had left during the qualifying rounds, it plays a lot better than leaving here. But Rask did fine, I guess, Halak did fine.
Halak. Yeah. Apart from the goal, the Carolina goal was like the biggest goalie error you ever seen. Like he just played it to I can't remember who scored the goal for Carolina, but he just gave it to a guy in front of the net. Like he passed it from behind his net to a guy in front.
Nice.
But yeah, they got the win. They're 2-1 in the series, and yeah, maybe hopefully they can mount some sort of charge. I mean, if an injury comes along to Halak, then do Boston fans ever forgive Rask? And if they pile out in the first round, I don't know. It's
well, Joe, if we know anything about Boston fans, it's that they're forgiving, right? So.
Yeah, I know they're going to really accept Tuukka Rask's decision and have just very calm opinions on everything that's going on.
He's back having a pint in the Cheers bar with Rondo right now, I think, in Boston. But yeah, so I think the significant thing is this Bruins team is so stacked in terms of talent, and they are probably favorites in the East, despite being 2 games down. So yeah, he really is kind of like leaving them in a year where it's quite likely that they are going to really kind of mount a charge for the cup. So yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine this situation. It kind of hasn't happened in soccer following the restart. But yeah, if one of the top, goalies of one of the teams. So if Liverpool's Alisson Becker or Edison from Manchester City, if they just said, I'm out, that would be huge. That'd be huge news. So
yeah, it's crazy. I wonder if this is going to happen in any other sports. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I think hockey's unique in the sense that a lot of these guys were not living in this country during quarantine. They have families overseas, and I think it's probably really hard to be away from them at this point in time. And so I think all of that plays into it, especially if Rask is feeling like these are just exhibition games and it doesn't really matter and he's not getting the fire out of it. But still kind of crazy. And to your question, as he played his last game in Boston, probably. I don't see how you can come back from this, really, how your team could accept you back.
Leaving now as well, like if he leaves, between now and the first game of the next season, is he then like public enemy number 1 when he comes back to ever play any games at TD Garden or whatever?
If fans ever, are allowed in arenas again,
true.
Well, I think it's gonna matter how Boston does. I mean, if they win the cup, I don't think anyone's gonna care.
That's true.
But if they go out, he's a scapegoat, surely.
Oh yeah, if they lose in the first round, he's for sure the scapegoat on that. All right, let's move to our last topic here. It's NBA. It's Joe's forte, even though he says he hasn't really been watching. But Joe, take us through just a couple of these first points here.
Well, I guess I should say I haven't been watching because this week has been like the weirdest week in terms of who's playing. Some starters play the first half and then don't play the second half. Some guys aren't participating at all. So it's been very weird. I also don't really understand some of these matchups. Like the Sixers played the Rockets on Friday. I don't know why that would have had any bearing on seeding to begin with.
No idea.
So some of these kind of seem like a waste. But I think the two biggest storylines have obviously been Devin Booker and the Suns and Damian Lillard and the Blazers. And I just can't imagine feeling the way the Suns must feel going there, going through everything, isolating, winning every game, and not even making the play-in game.
Yeah.
And I can't blame the NBA. And a lot of people are like, well, why would they even be invited back? If they could win out and not make it. I mean, they probably shouldn't have been invited back. But I think for their future, this was just huge. And I think they're going to be kind of a popular pick to win a lot of games next year. And you can see the future that's, budding there. Then on the team that I hated, and I had my hand up last week, how much I used to hate watching the Suns. But I don't know. What do you guys think? A team going undefeated in the bubble and then still having to leave early is something that should have happened, or no?
Dan, you have any thoughts on this before I spew my own?
Not really. I was just gonna say, when I think of the Suns, did Charles Barkley play for the Suns?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Steve Nash.
Steve Nash.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Amari Stoudemire?
Amari Stoudemire, did you say?
Stoudemire.
Stoudemire. I know the name, despite not recognizing it when you said it.
You're thinking of last year's roster with Nash and Barkley and Stoudemire, but I think it's tough, but I just think the NBA missed an opportunity here anyway, where they should have just I mean, it would have been totally unfair, but if they just changed it on the fly and had, like the 7 play the 10, because everyone was so close, all the seeds were so close, would have been cool. But yeah, it sucks. I think the NBA just didn't build a contingency plan for the Suns going 8-0, but then the Blazers also going 6-1 or 7-1 or whatever it was that they went, and the Grizzlies kind of staying afloat. My 2 biggest takeaways so far from the bubble were, one, Anthony Tolliver started a play-in game, which was a shock to my eyes. I couldn't believe that I was seeing that. And then 2, Joe, call me an old man for this take, please, but Lillard, I feel like Lillard can be a detriment sometimes to the Blazers.
Totally
offense.
agree. And that was the reason I wanted him in here. I think this is totally unsustainable. And it's so weird because this was a Western Conference Finals team last year. And without Nurkic, who's probably their second best player right now.
Yeah.
This team to me is totally unsustainable the way they're doing things right now.
It's ridiculous how they're playing. Dan, I know you probably haven't seen too much, but in Lillard's, I think it was his 42-point game, he literally pulled up from half court to shoot. I mean, it was like he crossed half court and pulled up to shoot. Granted, it went in on a ridiculous high bounce off the back of the rim, whatever it went in. You can't take too much away from that, but it's like Joe's saying, it's totally unsustainable. And it's how they played last year, and they got smoked in the Western Conference Finals, because when McCollum and Lillard's 40-foot threes aren't going down, the team doesn't score. So, it's I don't know. There's all these people talking about them beating the Lakers, or at least giving them a run for their money, and I think the Lakers will win in 4. I think it'll be a sweep.
I think it's going to be a sweep as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think it'll be close. You noted here this is the first playoffs without the Spurs in 22 seasons, which is crazy. Only Popovich's second time missing the playoffs in his career as the coach. So that'll be, I don't know. It'll be good. We haven't really missed the Spurs. The Spurs haven't really provided good games the last few years, right? So
it's really not that, it's kind of nice, I think, for the young NBA fan.
Yeah.
But seriously, what a streak! I mean, in this day and age, I mean, it's to me, it's almost underrated. I didn't know it was that long. I thought they missed a couple of years ago, and they didn't. And I mean, they really we're running on fumes in this bubble. I mean, this would have seemed like a position where, okay, the best coach should be able to figure something out. But there was just not happening with this current Spurs roster. I'm excited for them to have a chance at a lottery pick, because the last time they had a kind of lottery pick, even though it was traded for, was Kawhi Leonard. But they do have some good young talent. I mean, Lonnie Walker and Dejounte Murray. But to me, Aldridge and DeRozan, those guys are just brutal to watch at this point.
Yeah, they're awful to watch. I totally agree with you. Actually, I forgot Aldridge was there. How great is Hassan Whiteside, by the way, playing 10 minutes a game with the Blazers right now? Remember when he was relevant?
Another unsustainable cog in their machine right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about real quick. We'll just hit on some matchups we want to watch. You've got Milwaukee facing Orlando, Toronto versus Brooklyn, Boston versus Philadelphia, and Indiana versus Miami in the East. Is there any series there that gets you excited? Because for me, these don't really. I probably won't watch a game of any of these series.
Boston Philadelphia to me is going to be very good. I mean, I don't think you could have predicted that as a 3-6 matchup before the season. Most people thought these two were going to be two of the top 3 seeds in the East, and the Sixers are just such a pathetic organization that falling to 6 is really a shame. And I do hope for their sake that Embiid is ready to go. I mean, he did play against the Rockets. I think the Heat are a dangerous team. I've said this before. I think that's a good matchup for them, not having to play Boston in the first round. So I predict them to win. Toronto, I think, will sweep. I don't think Milwaukee will sweep. I think they're just a little too, rambunctious to sweep. And I do think Boston beats Philly in the first round, and it will lead to kind of massive changes around the NBA, because you got to think Philly's going to kind of blow it up proverbially, and they have a lot of guys that can help out good teams and bad teams. So I think that's going to be a big pivot point for the Eastern Conference, is what Philly decides to do if they lose in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have blown it up a while ago. I think this was they were basically playing 1990s basketball in the late 2010s. It didn't make any sense. Dan, what's what's it like over in the UK? Are people watching the NBA at all, or is there much interest? I know there's no more Luol Deng in the playoffs, but
yeah, not that I know of. I certainly haven't watched any of the games, and I know that the main kind of sports network over here, Sky Sports, they'll be showing the playoffs. So there will be there's a decent interest, but like compared to NFL, like it's nowhere near. Nowhere near it. But yeah, I would still say it's probably like the second most supported US sport.
Okay.
In the UK.
Yeah.
So NFL and then NBA.
It's tough too with, I'm sure, the schedule, and maybe this could be good for it, just like the NHL having games just all day, every day.
100%. Yeah.
I think that's cool. All right, so let's wrap it up with the Western Conference. You've got Lakers versus Blazers, Clippers versus Mavs, Nuggets versus Jazz, and then my Rockets against your Thunder, Joe. That is a series everyone's looking for, except it looks like Westbrook might not play at least the first few games. What are you most excited for? Because for me, what I'm most excited for is that they're actually playing every other day, and there's no 5 days off in between games. So this series are going to go a little bit quicker than in the past. And that's basically my biggest excitement level.
Yeah, I think the high seeds roll besides OKC. I got to stick with them for now. I don't think this is a great matchup for Denver. I kind of wish they had Dallas instead of Utah. I think the Blazers series, I don't know what the odds are right now, but I would definitely think that this kind of helps you if you really think the Lakers are going to win like I do. I think this is going to be a very weirdly bet-on series where I think the majority of the money is going to be on Portland to win the series, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Dallas getting the Clippers is obviously a tough draw. I think they're kind of a year away still, too. They really don't have the depth of the Clippers at all. But obviously, people are going to be very drawn by Luka and Porzingis, who is injured now. Hopefully, he's back. But, yeah, Westbrook being down for this series is a major bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is in so many ways. I think it opens the door for OKC, obviously. And even having Chris Paul play against his own team is fun in itself. But I think that's going to be a series that should go 6 or 7, and probably just looking at it on paper is, the one you look at as being the most exciting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really, really fun. It looks like Westbrook might be back for Game 3, so hopefully he'll be back for that. Let's wrap it there. Dan, why don't you just give us a score update on Joe's Islanders against my Capitals?
1-1.
Still 1-1. Okay, still 1-1. Okay, so they've just basically gone through intermission. By the time we end this, we'll be able to watch the end of the game here, which is perfect. Let's wrap it up there, guys. I think, Dan, you might be gone next week. Maybe we'll just take a week off. So we'll be back. I guess we'll just come back in 2 weeks. We'll just say it right now. We'll come back in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Joe, we'll get your whole situation figured out, and we'll get it rolling. But last note of the show, Joe, would you like to apologize to the people that you told you would have guaranteed zero screw ups on the mic?
It wasn't my fault. The space bar was not responsive. I had to click. I knew exactly what was going to happen. And no, I have no apologies at all.
All right, so a brazen Joe there to end the show. Well, thank you guys for being on as always, and thank you everyone for watching. Go check out our Only COD Can Judge Me show. It's right there on the YouTube page. Just hit subscribe. It's getting better and better every week. We ranked fruit this week, so Joe would have had a ranking that went about 3 deep, but we did our top 10, so it was really fun. And go check that out. But yeah, thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks.